Good evening and welcome back to our final episode of Golden Eagle Sports Report in 2022. TJ, the women's volleyball team is sweeping through the NCAA volleyball tournament.
I mean, you said it, Adrian, and the Marquette men's basketball team is slowly starting to generate national attention. Get ready, Marquette Nation, because Golden Eagle Sports Report starts right now.
Slam dunk! Oh, that's a poster. From the Jeannie Hayes Virtual Studio at Marquette University, this is Golden Eagle Sports Report. Marquette gets the rebound, and the champions have gone.
Hello everyone, I'm Adrian Fraga alongside TJ Dysart. We start tonight with an update with the women's basketball program.
The Marquette Wire confirms that the women's basketball game against Morgan State has been canceled due to COVID health and safety protocols within the Bears program. Marquette Athletics made an official announcement on Twitter on Monday night.
Marquette's next game will be this Saturday when they host Loyola Chicago at 2 p.m. Now tonight, the Marquette's men's basketball team is looking to bounce back against non-conference foe in NC Central.
And our executive director, Andrew Amuzu, is standing outside of Fiserv Forum to preview tonight's matchup. Andrew?
Well, guys, today marks the start of the holiday season. And, I have my festive gear on. We have a bus pulling up, so hopefully we can get some fans. But it also marks the start of some holiday basketball here at Fiserv Forum. So earlier, we were waiting here, trying to get some fans. As you can see, not too many fans right now. But, as you can see, more fans are starting to come in. Not too many people are coming to this game, maybe for good reason. It is a 5-4 NC Central team that they are facing off against, but don't let those 4 losses fool you. 2 of those losses have been double-digit losses, so that means that this NC Central team is very competitive. And going up against a Marquette team that lost, a tough loss against UW-Madison, this could prove to be a really big game for the Marquette Golden Eagles.
So Andrew, the Big East is stacked this year with UConn leading the pack and Creighton and Xavier not too far behind. Can Marquette actually contend in the Big East this season?
Well, when you say the word contend, I had to really, let's look it up. Contend means to assert something as a position in an argument. So if you're saying contend for a Big East championship, I don't know if we can go that far, but if we're talking about contending just to be competitive in the conference, I think Marquette has everything it needs to be competitive. They have one of the best point guards in the Big East. They have great defense. The only thing that's stopping them from really achieving that upper tier in the Big East is just consistency. Consistency, especially with the hustle points, hustle statistics. These things consist of rebounds, fast break points. Anytime Marquette scores over 30 points for fast break points, they have won the game. And many losses so far this season, the reason why they've lost is because they only scored under 10 fast break points. So those are the things that really matter. So if we're talking about continuing to be competitive, that's definitely on Marquette's wish list, and that's something that they want to do going into Big East play.
Now, Andrew, we all know this game tipping off in just about 30 minutes. Who do you think is coming out with the win tonight?
Like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a really big game just because Marquette, after this one, they have to go on the road to face Notre Dame, which is a very prominent sports school in general, and then they have to face off against number 21 Creighton, which is arguably the best team in the Big East. So this is a really big game coming off a very tough loss against UW-Madison. They're going to use this game for momentum. The biggest thing that Marquette has to realize is that they cannot play to NC Central's level. If they do that, it's going to be a long ball game. There's going to be a lot of energy used, and they might be gassed for Notre Dame. So my prediction, Marquette comes out with this one. They're really going to step up the gas and really build some momentum. I'm going to say they're winning hopefully by double digits because the team really needs it, but do not rule out the North Central Hawks.
As always, Andrew, thank you for your insights. Stay warm out there. As mentioned, the men are coming off a tough loss against Wisconsin.
The Badgers came out of the locker room aggressive in the first half, hitting 8 of their first 11 shots, taking the lead 19-13. The Eagles rally it back together as sophomore guard Cam Jones knocks down a three-pointer, topping off an 8-0 run to the game, 23-20. Capping off the final minute of scoring in the half, sophomore guard Chucky Hepburn attributed his 4th three-pointer of the game, giving the Badgers a 41-30 halftime lead. Now as Hepburn leaves with only seconds in the half with an injury, Marquette uses this as fuel to pick up their defensive presence. Marquette closes a 16-point deficit in the 7th minute of the half thanks to sophomore forward David Joplin's drive to close the gap 63-61. However, Hepburn checks back into the game for the Badgers, and the two teams begin trading leads in the final minutes of the game as Marquette looked to take the lead. Sophomore guard Stevie Mitchell's transition layup does the trick. Wisconsin regains the lead after hitting yet another three-pointer over junior forward Oso Ighodaro. Ighodaro responds with a posterizing dunk, sending the game into overtime. But that Jones leads Marquette with 26 points and 6 rebounds, but it wasn't enough as the Badgers snapped the Golden Eagles' 13-game home win streak in overtime, 80-77. After the game, Coach Smart had this to say.
Disappointed locker room in there. We've been in a few close games here where we're one play away from winning, but not pulled them out. And Wisconsin deserves a lot of credit. They made a ton of big shots. I thought the shot.
And after a big week for Marquette, we'd like to welcome in men's basketball beat reporter Jackson Gross. Jackson, thanks so much for coming on today.
Always happy to talk some men's hoops on the show tonight.
I love it. Now, the Golden Eagles are coming off a tough 80-77 loss in overtime against in-state rival Wisconsin. Now, Jackson, what went wrong for the Golden Eagles down the stretch?
Well, it even begins before down the stretch in that game. It began in the first half, gave up 41 points. Wisconsin nearly shot 70% in the first half.
Wow.
I think only one of their starters didn't shoot 100%, including Chucky Hepburn, who I believe was 5 for 5 with 16 points. Didn't miss a 3-ball in that first half. He was just on fire. But going back down the stretch, Wisconsin just made a few more big plays. Marquette finally started to get back into it defensively, but they made a few defensive errors down the stretch. They allowed Max Klesmit to get an open basket after trying to trap Chucky Hepburn in the corner. He got a big layup, and then Tyler Kolek, with 3 seconds left and 2 seconds left, couldn't find Cam Jones, who had been hot all game.
Sure.
He threw the ball twice directly to Tyler Wall, and then after Tyler Wall caught that second one, he waved off the Marquette crowd.
So now it does sound like that defense was their biggest flaw, but keep in mind, even though they did lose the game, offense was pretty well for the Marquette Golden Eagles. Sophomore guard Cam Jones had a career-high 26 points. Now, what was clicking for him in that game?
Everybody knew Cam Jones is a three-point shooter and lethal from the outside, but what he's been able to add in this game, his game in the offseason has been incredible. He's now being able to get to the lane, doing some 6-spin moves, getting to the line and being aggressive. He was shot 4 of 6 from the free throw line, 4 of 6 from downtown, 26 points. Also was Marquette's leading rebounder with 6 rebounds. So he just had himself a big game. The only issue for them offensively was that everyone else really struggled. I mean, Omax Prosper shot 3 for 11 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3. And Chase Ross, he had 8 points, but he had 4 fouls and basically didn't play the rest of the game after picking up his 4th. So Cam Jones was, as Shaka Smart has said, is a natural scorer. He showed that on Saturday, and he's just going to have to keep it up if Marquette wants to be competitive throughout the rest of the year.
Sure. Now, as we know, we just checked in with Andrew. 30 minutes or less until this NC Central game from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. Now, after this Madison game, what do the Golden Eagles have to do to bounce back and get this one?
They have to hit the ground running defensively. I mean, that is when Shaka Smart's identity, whether it was at VCU, at Texas, and even in his first year at Marquette, they just have to be more consistent defensively. Obviously, you're playing a lesser opponent. It's a bye game, NC Central, but like Andrew's saying, NC Central's not a team that's going to just lay down and go to sleep against Marquette. They're going to make it tough on them all night. So Marquette's going to have to lock in from the get-go. We saw that against Baylor. They forced 16 turnovers in the first half against Baylor. That was a season high all year throughout an entire game. So That's really what they're going to have to be able to do if they want to be NC Central and eventually take on two much tougher opponents in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Creighton Blue Jays.
Absolutely. Jackson, thanks so much for your answers. We unfortunately are out of time. Coming up, has the volleyball team really swept the floor with the competition? Find out after the break.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
And welcome back to the Golden Eagle Sports Report. Once again, I'm Adrian Fraga.
And I'm TJ Dysart. Big East play is officially underway. The women's basketball team is coming off a 2-game road trip to the East Coast to open up their conference schedule.
The first stop, the nation's capital.
Gotta love DC. Georgetown keeps the game close throughout the first quarter by establishing a 7-6 lead.
Marquette flies into the driver's seat, scoring 13 points in the second quarter and takes a 9-point lead going into the break.
And although the Hoyas attempt to stay in it, the Golden Eagles press their talons on the gas and use a 24-11 fourth quarter to put the finishing touches on a 78-57 win. Senior guard Jordan King scores a game-high 23 points in the victory, and senior forward Chloe Murata secures her 8th double-double of the season, going for 14 points and 12 rebounds. Marquette then looks to go undefeated on the East Coast, making the trip to New Jersey to go to eye-to-eye patch with the Seton Hall Pirates.
Although King picks up where she left off on Capitol Hill, hitting a three-pointer seconds into the game, neither team can really get a promising advantage.
Senior guard Sydney Cook spearheads the Pirates' offense with 11 of Seton Hall's first 20 points, but Marquette still leads by 1 at the end of the first buzzer.
Seton Hall quickly turns the page and puts together a 14-0 run to take a 7-point lead halfway through the second quarter.
Marquette only musters 11 points in the second quarter, 8 of which come from Murata.
The Golden Eagles try to break free from their nest and tie the game at 47 after outscoring the Pirates 14-7 to start the second half.
But Seton Hall is not ready to walk the plank just yet and scores 7 unanswered points at the end of the third quarter to go up 56-49.
Marquette looks to pull away in the final quarter, going on a promising 7-2 run.
But Park Lane has other plans and scores 17 fourth quarter points for the Pirates.
Murata's career-high 30 points are not enough as Seton Hall puts on the finishing touches on an 82-78 victory and hands Marquette its first Big East loss.
Well, exciting news for the volleyball program as it announces they will host the defending NCAA champions University of Wisconsin at the Fiserv Forum on September 13th, 2023.
Wisconsin volleyball is no stranger to the big lights as they hosted the University of Florida for their first match in the Kohl Center and set the NCAA record in attendance at 16,833 fans.
Wow. Before
we like coming home with Wisconsin, and they did Kohl Center this year with a Florida match, and we've been dying to try and pull something like this off. We've sold out last time we were at our place, and we've been excited to try and make it happen. And we found a date that would work, and we gave it to the Fiserv people, and it looked like they could make it work. And so,
before they set their sights on next season, the Golden Eagles are sweeping their way to the Sweet 16. After bouncing Ball State out of the NCAA tournament, Marquette sets its sights on Georgia Tech. But after a tight first set, Marquette is relentless, swinging on all 4 cylinders. After attempts from both outside hitters, sophomore right side Ella Foddy is the ultimate decider. The Yellow Jackets fight so hard, a shoe literally comes flying off. but with both shoes on, Marquette wins set 2, 25-20. Scrappy defense saves the Golden Eagles from losing a valiant fight, and junior outside hitter Aubrey Hamilton puts her exclamation point on the set with her 15th kill of the match. And a picture-perfect finish from sophomore middle blocker Hattie Bray had Iggy bursting out of the room. And as Tice's squad set their sights on the next round of the NCAA tournament, the women receive a send-off from the Marquette community before they make their journey to Texas for the NCAA semifinals. Marquette will be making its appearance in the Sweet 16 against number 1 Texas, with hopes of advancing to the program's first ever Elite Eight.
And with that, we'd like to welcome an executive sports producer, Kristen Parisi. Good to have you, Kristen.
It's great to be talking volleyball with you, Adrian.
Now the Golden Eagles are off to the Sweet 16 after 2 sweeps over the weekend. What went right in the first game against Ball State?
Before we get started, not only did they sweep both Ball State and Georgia Tech, they swept them so hard, I had to bring myself a little broom to show you the action. But in the first round, they hit .369 over the 3 sets. They only averaged .293, but they hit well without many mistakes. You saw in the game against Creighton in the Big East championship game, they had a lot of errors, and Ball State was the best passing team in the country, one of the best passing teams in the country, but Marquette got 9 aces, and they only had 6 service errors against Ball State, but they had 5 in the 5th set against Creighton, so not having many errors, hitting hard and hitting with confidence is what brought them the sweep.
You could definitely say Marquette had an ace up their sleeve, but in the round of 32, Marquette sweeps Georgia Tech, handing the Yellow Jackets their first sweep of the season. How are the Golden Eagles able to exterminate the Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, I mean, they had 7 service aces and only 7 service errors, and they put pressure and forced Georgia Tech to get out of their system. And why they were able to do that is that they were strong on that service line, and they got Georgia Tech out of their system, and they kept themselves in their own system. Aubrey Hamilton had 17 kills, most in a sweep for her this season. But she said that Yadi set her up well, and that they were able to have great chemistry, and they held Georgia Tech to only hitting .172 on the game. So with that, they were able to get Georgia Tech out of their system and really commit to making them mess up.
Wow. Now Marquette went undefeated at home for the first time in program history. What can you say about the Al McGuire Center and its fans this season?
Yeah, I mean, the Al McGuire Center has always been busting with fans. I mean, after every point that they win, they get Point Marquette and they get the band into it. And even though that they hosted, they had to be neutral, but the band still brought out the Point Marquette posters. I mean, the fans were always on, when the opposing team was serving, they were always smacking the mats, and fans were cheering, and they packed the house. They were always rowdy, and having that hype and having that really got Coach Tice and his squad into it.
Couldn't have said it better myself, but Marquette will now play its hardest game of the season, going up against the number 1 seeded Texas, with hopes to move on to its first Elite Eight in school history. How can the Golden Eagles pull off this historic upset?
Well, it's going to be hard, Adrian, because Texas spent 13 of the 15 weeks at number 1. They only have 1 loss against Iowa State. But the one thing that Coach Tice said today before they went on their send-off is that it starts from the serve. I mean, Texas has a great serve, but how they respond, how they can hit, how they can spread out their offense. I mean, get the attack spread out with Jenna Reitzma and Ella Foti involved, and even getting it to Hattie Bray, that can really spearhead a great Marquette offense. It's not going to be an easy task because Texas is such a great team, but if they can really stick to their serve receive, I think they might be able to pull up the offset.
And thank you for your answers, Kristen, but we are unfortunately out of time. Coming up in pro sports, is Baker Mayfield out of time? Plus, who's going to take home the college football crown? We'll jump in after the break.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Roll over. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother.
They're a little bit of a lot of things. but they're all pure love.
Every day,
Millions of people are connecting. Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor. It's time we take a step forward, come together,
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
And we're back in Studio 7 to have a packed discussion about MLB offseason drama and a lot of football. Joining me on the panel tonight is TJ Dysart and Kristen Parisi. Let's get to the good stuff.
Hey, start us off.
The college football playoffs are set with Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, and TCU. Who will win the Natty? Kirsten?
Well, I can tell you who's not winning the Natty, Alabama. And Nick Saban tried his hardest to get them into the college football playoffs by just saying, hey, we're Alabama. But I think Georgia they're going to repeat. I mean, Ohio State, they're okay, but when they had to go against Michigan in one of the biggest games of their season, they were nowhere to be found. And the defensive line with Georgia, they only allowed 2.97 yards of rush, and they have a 31% pressure rate. So their defense can get in the face of Ohio State. CJ Stroud is nowhere to be found. I don't know if Michigan's going to be up for the test if they move on.
I absolutely agree. Kirby Smart is super smart when it comes to defensive schemes, and that Georgia defense is no joke. Jalen Carter, dog. Gale Ringo's also a fantastic prospect going into this year's draft. Great corner, and you can't forget about Nolan Smith. That defense is legit, TJ.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think this time of year, you have to look at all the team's success. And you can't just look at records, I think. And for me, even not even being a sports guy off the bat, but I just know basic football. And I think seeing the talent that Georgia has this year, I think it's no question that they will be winning it all this year. But I think these next couple of games in the regular season are really going to determine who is really ready to take the test in that postseason for college. So I honestly couldn't agree with you guys.
Now, as the playoffs begin, the Heisman finalists are also in. Who will be taking home this prestigious award, TJ?
I mean, I can tell you right off the bat, it's not going to be Stetson Bennett because that guy.
Hey!
I mean, listen.
He might be 25 years old, but he's got some talent left in the tank.
You saw the memes. I mean, remind me who's on the list right now for Heisman.
Well,
right up on the screen.
We have USC quarterback
QB
Caleb
award.
Williams, Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud, TCU QB Max Duggan, and of course Stetson Bennett.
I mean, listen, I do say Stetson Bennett shouldn't win it, but I mean, he is talented. And I mean, from what I've seen from him this year, I mean, I've got to say, I think he can do it. I think it'll cause.
Said he didn't.
But I said I don't think he's going to win it because I don't want him to win it.
Let's calm down.
I apologize.
But if we wanted to talk about the clear-cut favorite,
Hendon Hooker. Should have been Hendon Hooker.
Should have been a nominee, yes. But in terms of the nominees, Caleb Williams is absolutely the favorite. He had 4,075 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, only 4 picks, turnovers, and of course an 86.5 QBR. He led USC to an 8-1 record, and even though they missed the playoffs, the trophy goes to the most outstanding player, and Caleb Williams was undoubtedly the most outstanding player.
Yeah, I mean, before he came, they were 3-6,
exactly.
And now they're here. Obviously, the painting on the nails with, Utah didn't work out in his favor, maybe. But if it should have been anyone, it should have been Hendon Hooker. He should have been nominated. I mean, he was having an outstanding season, 27 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. I mean, he was injured against South Carolina, yes, and they were going not the best in that direction with that game. But it's the QB award, which is kind of frustrating. I mean, there's so many other deserving players that are not QBs.
Right.
But even in the NFL, we see it's the QB award. So I don't know. I do think Caleb Williams will go out with it because he's shown, I mean, CJ Stroud, he's good, but when he has to play Michigan, he's not so good. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, he also had 2 interceptions. They got crushed. So they are blessing their souls that Utah beat USC, because if Utah beat USC, or if USC beat Utah, Ohio State would not be here and CJ Stroud would not be in the
Well, that might
conversation.
be true, and I hate to disappoint you, Kristen. We're going on to another quarterback who has won the Heisman in his past.
Oh, boy.
Heisman's overrated. If you win the Heisman,
Well,
you
this
probably
past
suck.
offseason, the former number 1 overall pick, Baker Mayfield, was moved to the Panthers for a change of scenery. But ultimately, after abysmal quarterback play, Baker has been released. Now, is this the end of the road for the former Heisman winner?
I mean, I got to tell you this. I think of Baker Mayfield. I remember when he was coming up, and I thought this guy was going to be the greatest. And not the greatest, but he was going to do a lot of work in the league, right? And like you said, former Heisman winner. I think it's so interesting to watch the transition between college football players heading into the NFL, just because you really see how different the level of talent is in the NFL. And I don't know if it's his talent specifically, but things aren't just working out. And, you know, he kind of reminds me of the Johnny Manziel situation without all the personal trauma and stuff like that.
Well, he still has personal drama.
Okay, fair.
He's doing more in his commercials than he is on the field.
Right. But, you know, he's not hitting the clubs as much. You know, it's a different story. But, you know, I think Baker, you know, this may be his next chance in LA. I mean, I don't know what he's going to be up to. I don't know what LA's plans are, but we'll see.
Dude, Baker Mayfield shouldn't have been a first overall pick. Should not have he won the Heisman, yeah. Should have been the first overall pick, maybe. But in the recent years, we've seen it was either going to be Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield, and look at both of them. In Carolina, not working out.
I hear you. I just believe in second chances
Baker
or
Mayfield
third chances.
this year
This
has
is like
been
his fifth chance. He had one good year in 2020 when they ended their 18-year play, when they ended their 18-year playoff.
I didn't know 3 teams equated to 5. But Baker is definitely a pretender. And there may be some more scattered throughout the NFL. Some teams showed up while others didn't in this pivotal week of football. Who are some of the biggest pretenders and contenders in the NFL season? Kristen.
New York Giants.
I was just going to say that.
New York Giants.
Everyone's
like, the Giants are so much greater than the Jets. Daniel Jones is your quarterback. Zach Wilson was our quarterback, yes. But at least we show promise on our defensive end. At least we didn't tie the Commanders. At least we can do our business against bad teams, aka the Bears. Sorry, all you Chicago fans, but the Giants. I mean, they started 6-1 and now they're 7-4-1. How can you start with? Ball's a great coach. He's a great coach. He doesn't have a great offense. I mean, Daniel Jones is not the answer. He's never been the answer. He will never be the answer. Saquon Barkley. They're starting to figure out that they should make. If they want to win a game, the opposing team, make Daniel Jones throw it. Don't let Saquon Barkley run, and that's why they're losing.
You got any more to add to this Giants convo?
Well, I agree with your statement on the pretenders. I was just going to say the same thing. But in terms of contenders, I got to talk with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Whoa!
Because, listen to me.
Bengals?
They just beat Mahomes. I saw a stat the other day that said something like Patrick Mahomes was 26-0 when starting the game. I mean, this game over the weekend was I thought a great game watching Joe Burrow just go to town on Patrick Mahomes. Now, keep in mind, their record isn't incredible, but I think just a win like that over a team like that speaks volumes.
The Bengals, I don't think anyone doubted them going into this year. They had a shaky start, but at the end of the day, they were in the Super Bowl last year. But in terms of actual contenders, and it pains me to say this, how about them Cowboys? Because them Cowboys...
I mean, they did show Minnesota Vikings who's boss. James Rose was all over him with the what happened.
Iconic, but the Cowboys' defense is elite. Trevon Diggs is playing a fantastic year of football.
Oh,
you can't mention.
You can't tell me that Diggs is actually a great defender. Everyone gets burned against him. Everyone gets burned against him.
That's what social media wants you to think. But Micah Parsons, on the other hand,
he led up the most yards last year.
Micah Parsons, on the other hand, is a phenomenal edge rusher, phenomenal defensive player. He is probably, in my opinion, the strongest case for Defensive Player of the Year. But not only that, they have the elite run game, the two-headed monster in Ezekiel Elliott, and, in my opinion, the better running back in Tony Pollard.
Oh, 100%.
And the cute thing about their offense is that they've scored 39.8 points per game over the last 5 games. Do you know how remarkable that is?
It's pretty remarkable.
It's pretty remarkable. And speaking of remarkable, the MLB is back with free agency as multiple signings were announced this past weekend. Most notable including Justin Verlander to the New York Mets, Jacob deGrom to the Astros, and Trey Turner to the Phillies. Now, which team had the best accusation?
I will not say it was the San Francisco Giants with Arson Judge because he did not go there. But I will say Trey Turner. Philly didn't have a shortstop. Now they do.
I agree. They were in the World Series just now, and Trey Turner is a great player. TJ?
I mean, I got to say, we didn't even mention this, but I think one that just broke during rehearsal, Cody Bellinger to the Cubs. I think that's a very notable signing, and I think that will work out in the end, but we will have to see.
Personally, I think he's a bit washed, but thank you for the phenomenal discussion. But we are unfortunately out of time. But don't worry, be sure to tune in next semester for all our coverage of Marquette sports and much more. For DJ Dysart, I'm Adrian Fraga. Good night, Marquette.